Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to welcome you all to the RICS Real Estate Investment Conference 2016, Ringing the Realty Cash Register, Trends, Opportunities, and New Frontiers. We would also like to extend a very, very warm welcome and invite onto the dais our dignitaries for the day, beginning with the co-founder and managing director, Hiranandani Developers, Mr. Niranjan Hiranandani. If you could come up on stage, sir, thank you. Joining him, Director, Mahindra & Mahindra Limited, and Chairman, Mahindra Lifespace Developers Limited, Mr. Arun Nanda. Mr. Michael Holland, FRICS, member RICS South Asia Board and CEO, Embassy Office Parks. Mr. Ramesh Nair, MRICS, COO, Business and International Director, JLL India, and member RICS Global Regulatory Board. And filling up the final chair, the Managing Director, South Asia, RICS, Ms. Devina Gildial. The efficiency through which the real estate sector invests, develops, supports, and maintains the built environment and services its clients is of crucial importance to policymakers. A performing real estate sector provides the basic platform for the economy to deliver to its full potential and remain competitive. In fact, there are no two opinions on the sizable impact that property markets have on the soundness of financial institutions and macroeconomic activity. Historical evidence suggests that the boom-bust nature of property price fluctuations has a direct bearing on general business cycles, fueling the upswing and magnifying the downswing. The Indian real estate market, once a preferred and safe high-return investment option, has in the recent past seen an overall slowdown. While there is no shortage of capital flow globally, what's dictating the flow of money is the level of professionalism and international standards which India needs to improve and sustain in order to attract and retain investment. Also, for real estate to perform to its full potential, the critical aspect is access to low-cost capital. This for long was a prominent issue. Liquidity and title ownership continued to act as constraints to cross-border investor activity. That, along with high transaction costs, resulted in keeping direct investments at bay. But considerable improvement has taken place over the years with respect to the legal framework, which encourages inflow of foreign capital and direct investment in the sector. Today, there are more sources of finance at the disposal of developers than ever before. With political stability having returned, the economy seems to be looking up as well. Today's conference will focus on the latest developments in the real estate investment and finance marketplace, analyze opportunities and challenges of investing in India and in which asset classes, examine best practices and explore new deal-making strategies, and explore return expectations of investors and developers and their challenges with the market, amongst others. Having said that, it's now time to plunge straight into the agenda for today. To commence today's proceedings, I take pleasure in inviting to the podium the Managing Director for RICS's operations in the South Asia region. In this role, she is primarily responsible for managing the region's operations and spearheading growth of the RICS in South Asia. She is responsible for the strategic direction, day-to-day operations, and business plan delivery. She also acts as a brand ambassador and represents the organization in the media. She is a key interface between the RICS and the government, trade associations and bodies, key organizations, and other relevant stakeholders in the sector, and is also a part of the global leadership team for the RICS. Please join me in welcoming Managing Director, South Asia, RICS, Ms. Devina Gildial.
Mr. Niranjan Hiranandani, co-founder and MD Hiranandani Developers, Mr. Arun Nanda, Director Mahindra & Mahindra and Chairman Mahindra Lifespace Developers, Mr. Michael Holland, CEO Embassy Office Parks and member RICS South Asia Board, Mr. Ramesh Nair, COO Business and International Director JLL India, our friends from the industry and media, respected ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning. On behalf of the RICS, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to each of you to this RICS conference titled Ringing the Realty Cash Register. It's gratifying to have all of you here today. A good audience is the first sign of a successful event. After all, you are who we do this for. Your presence today underlines the fact that today's conference is topical and timely. A lot of effort goes into putting together our conferences, and the team works really hard. So from all of us at the RICS, a very warm welcome. As always, thank you for taking our time from your busy schedules to be with us and for supporting all that we do. It's the beginning of a new year, a year that I hope and pray will bring promise and potential. Looking back, 2015 was a year of definite lessons, but also some blessings. On the one hand, we saw a tough market with subdued demand and sluggish sales, but on the flip side, we saw several policy reforms and initiatives. We hope that over time, these will pave the way for a more regulated and transparent real estate market. Coming to investments, capital markets seem to have had a field day. Private equity players upped their game, and 2015 saw the highest level of investments since 2008. In fact, despite the slowdown, India continued to be the investment destination of choice. 2015 also saw us go up on our ease of doing business ranking. We saw FIIs and PE funds invest in India, reinforcing their faith in the midst of a 2-year-long slowdown. Overall, 2015 has set the pace for 2016. And if all goes well, this year may see the kind of investment activity last seen in 2007 when investments peaked at $8 billion. Credit crunch has been our largest issue, and cheap capital has been a pain point. In fact, our situation epitomizes a long-standing joke which says a bank is a place that will lend you money if you can prove that you don't really need it. So with the hope of more investment coming in, let's hope for happier times. Clearly, this sector is on the cusp of change, and we thought that given the renewed investor focus, it's a good time to bring the fraternity together to deliberate on the evolving investment landscape. So what better place than Mumbai, the financial and commercial capital of the country, to host it? The wealthiest city in India, Mumbai has been ranked 6th among top 10 global cities on the billionaire count. Clearly, it's a city that understands the language of money. It's often said that money is like a sixth sense, and you can't really do much with the other 5 without it. Money is the elixir that makes the seemingly impossible possible. This holds all the more true for the real estate market, where everything boils down to the availability of capital and the returns that it can generate. Yet, real estate is a paradoxical asset class. Despite the cool down seen in property markets globally, it's interesting to note that Forbes now counts more real estate billionaires this year than the last. So clearly, real estate as an asset class is continuing to create billionaires. And as someone once said, while money isn't the most important thing in life, but it's reasonably close to oxygen on the gotta have it scale. So yeah, let's not give up on our industry just yet. Realty is in the driving seat. Until 2014, we were functioning in an unregulated, fragmented, and highly inefficient market. 2016 should see the start of us moving towards a more regulated market eventually. At the start of 2016, we are faced with a number of interesting possibilities. Will the market give us hope? Are we looking at a more mature market, or is that just wishful thinking? What does investor sentiment look like? To that end, we look forward to jointly releasing the RICS JLL research report later today, which captures the pulse of investor preferences as we step into 2016. Working with JLL has always been fun. In fact, it's an extension of, almost an extension of our own team, and we really enjoyed working with them and would like to thank them for putting together this report. Today, through a series of panel discussions, industry stalwarts will deliberate on the opportunities, trends, and new frontiers that will pave the way for the market in 2016 and beyond. We begin today's conference with the introductory session, which has a lineup of extremely eminent speakers whom I'm truly privileged to be sharing the dais with. To begin with, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to Mr. Niranjan Hiranandani, also known as Builder Extraordinaire. While market predictions of the man who changed Mumbai's skyline are seldom off the mark, it's known that he prefers to talk more about his dreams and visions for the sector, many of which he's helped shape. His leadership and untiring zest for excellence have featured him in the list of top 100 richest Indians and Forbes global billionaires in a span of just 30 to 35 years. He's a visionary, and we are truly fortunate to have him here today. We look forward to hearing from him on what the sector can do to turn the tide of investment and finance in its favor, hopefully creating in its wake many more billionaires. I'd now like to welcome Mr. Arun Nanda. From billionaires to knights, I'm truly in august company today. For those of you who are wondering what I'm talking about, Mr. Nanda has been conferred with knighthood by the French government, which is the highest honor given by them. I'd never thought I'd meet a knight, let alone share stage with one. I guess if I'd asked for more today, I would have possibly got it. But unlike the knights of old, Mr. Nanda is a knight of the here and now. His success story is one of persistence, tenacity, and determination. These attributes have key lessons for the sector as well. Real estate can't achieve financial fitness with a resolution in January that's abandoned by February. Tenacity and persistence are what it's all about. We look forward to hearing from you shortly, sir, on what the sector needs to do to get money to chase realty. I would now like to extend a very warm welcome to Mr. Michael Holland. Mike is someone I'd heard of long before I actually interacted with him, and that sometimes has its own issues. One tends to make more of people in our own minds, and then meeting them can be less exciting. But with Mike, that's not how it works. Meeting him makes you realize that there's so much more to him than you envisaged. With Mike, it's all about impact and influence, the impact of getting results and the influence to spread the passion for his work, which is so inspiring. You make me want to be so much better. We look forward to hearing from you today on the evolving investment landscape. Last but definitely not the least, I'd like to welcome Mr. Ramesh Nair. Ramesh is a friend, but more than that, he's a professional whom I have tremendous regard for. To me, what's always stood out about Ramesh has been his work ethic and his need to push the envelope. When everyone was breaking ground, he wanted to break through. In our early days, when the RICS was lesser known and we needed to introduce the RICS and what the qualification stands for, there he was, a shining star who knew and valued us. From then to now, he's been one of our strongest brand ambassadors, but for those initial years of support, Ramesh, you will have our eternal gratitude. We look forward to you giving us a precursor to the RICS JLL report. Ladies and gentlemen, with these words, I will close and make way for our very eminent speakers. I do hope you enjoy the day's proceedings, and I wish you a superlative year ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Devina. To give us a precursor to the RICS JLL research report, we have the Chief Operating Officer, Business India for Jones Lang LaSalle. He is also an international director within JLL, which is the highest level in the firm globally. Additionally, he is a non-executive director on the RICS Global Regulatory Board. He is also the managing director of JLL's Western India region, which includes cities such as Mumbai and Pune. In this capacity, he sets the strategic direction, manages day-to-day operations, has P&L responsibility, and drives revenue growth for the office, retail, capital markets, residential, and industrial businesses in West India, where JLL is the market leader in terms of market share, revenues, number of transactions, profitability, and team size for all the business lines. Please join me in welcoming COO, Business and International Director, JLL India, and member RICS Global Regulatory Board, Mr. Ramesh Nair, MR, ICS.
Thanks, Devina, for those kind words. Devina has given me 5 minutes to give this audience a brief of the JLL RICS report. Around 3 weeks back, we decided we need to take a pulse of what are the investor preferences in the market today. A lot of uncertainty in the market. I'm sure everyone read the papers today that stock markets are at its lowest for a very long time. The rupee is at its lowest 28 for the last 28 months. So we live in very uncertain times. We thought at this point of time, we shouldn't do a report which predicts like the next 2 or 3 or 4 years, because there could be so many things, uncontrollable factors which could go wrong. So we focused just on 1 year. What do you feel will happen in 2016 was our question to the funds. We went to 40 odd private equity funds, many funds who are going to be part of today's discussions. They were kind enough to fill in a survey. We asked them around 20 questions on where they see the market going this year. This study was done by 2 of my senior colleagues from the capital markets team, Mahesh Kalap and Maulik Shah, who are also around in the audience today. Before we start celebrating, as in India last year we saw foreign direct investments in PE investments of close to $4 to $5 billion. Like Devina mentioned, this is probably the second best year after 2007. But if you look at the global piece, global institutional commercial capital invested in 2015, just ended now, was $750 billion. So we're just talking about $5 billion out of $750 billion. Cities like New York alone, just one city got $40 billion of those investments. So look at the potential as a country where India can get capital. So time to celebrate. This is much better than the 5 billion, than the 1 billion, 2 billion, which we saw in between 2001 and 2011 and 2014. But still, the opportunities are huge. It's been a mixed year for Indian real estate. Office demand came up in a big way, where we saw office demand of close to 35 million square feet. This was the second best year in office after 2011, where we saw 36 million square feet. Retail demand again went up, 3.5, 4 million square feet of retail demand compared to just another 1.5 million square feet, which we saw back in 2014. Residential was a mixed bag depending on which market one looks at. But the good news in the residential market was, in spite of all the uncertainties, in the top 7 cities which JLL covers, we saw demand actually go down very, very little. So 2014, the overall demand was 170,000 units. That came down to 160,000 units. So demand is still there. It's a small correction phase which the residential market has gone. And overall, in spite of the sluggishness, on an average, all Indian real estate markets went up around 5%, with some exceptions like NCR, which went down, but overall the markets went up 5%. So some of the questions we asked these 40 odd funds, we asked them about the refinancing cycle, which is continuing currently. People felt that will continue for 2016. The fundamentals, the funds felt will improve, so sales is expected to pick up. The number of exits is definitely going to go up, is what the funds felt. They felt that there would be more consolidation in the industry, which means more larger and smaller developers coming together to launch projects. There would be a lot more distressed deals available, is what the funds felt. Pure equity is finally making a comeback. But equity is available only for tier 1 developers. Cap rates will remain the same. There was widespread expectation that the cap rates are going to go down, but the funds feel it's going to remain the same. Funds' expectation on returns will come down, is what they felt. The top asset classes, big surprise here, the top asset class which these 40 odd funds mentioned where they would like to invest is office. So commercial office. Second came mid-end housing. Mid-end housing means between luxury and affordable. And third came in IT parks. So commercial office making a big comeback as the most preferred investment asset class. In terms of cities, the number one was Mumbai, followed by Bangalore, and third Pune. All the funds felt with Modi's new change in FDI, there would be a lot more capital coming into the country. RERA will definitely help the fund industry bring in more capital. REITs, the funds were a little apprehensive if it will take off this year. They've been waiting for the last 2 years for the regulations to finally crystallize, but it's taken some time, so some amount of negativity around it. The funds also believe this year would see a lot of new sources of capital coming in. So previously the capital used to typically come from the US, Singapore, or Middle East, but this year the funds believe capital would come from Japan and China also. Affordable housing, still not an exciting theme for the funds. The number of active acquirers and divestors expected to pick up this year. And the investor participation in developers, the funds feel would be more than ever before. And the holding period stays at 4 to 5 years. So we were hoping the holding period will increase with some amount of patient capital coming into the city, into the country, but that's not happened. So that's in a nutshell the report which we did. Thanks RICS and Devina for all the help to get this done in a short time frame, less than 3 weeks. I hope all of you would like the report and take away some few learnings from it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nair. It's time to listen to our first keynote speaker. From his early beginnings of teaching chartered accountancy, our keynote speaker began his initial business by venturing into textiles with a weaving unit at Charcoop in Kandivali in 1981. His first spark of recognition in the construction line came with their work in Versova, Andheri in the mid-80s. The transformation of a barren land in Powai from a lonely hillside quarry with about 20 trees to one that is bustling with activity, with over 200 acres of greenery, as well as top-of-the-line commercial, residential, recreational, and educational facilities, is something we all cherish. He is a business leader with a combination of qualities such as a sharp professional business acumen, being an upfront citizen with social awareness, an industry leader, and above all, giving value to every customer. Today, the Hiranandani brand is synonymous with quality, timely completion of projects, and total township development under his able guidance and leadership. Please welcome co-founder and managing director, Hiranandani Developers, Mr. Niranjan Hiranandani.
Good morning, everybody. It's a wonderful day and a wonderful year, too. Thank you, Devina, for inviting us to the RIS conference and also making me sit before people I respect so much, starting none other than Mr. Arun Nanda, who I regard as a good friend, but a more respected leader in the industry and value his opinions and words, though they're always opposite of mine. But I always look forward to his opinions. Mike Holland has been a leader in the Bangalore space, and I think the leadership is second to none. JLL, of course, has done a wonderful job, and Ramesh, nice to be sitting with you this morning. And my friends over here, including Mr. Monani and others who are here, it's so nice to see you this morning. I'm very optimistic. I know that's not the kind of mood the world shows today. But one of the reasons that I feel is that if the opportunity of today is being taken by India, India will be second to none in the world. We're talking about 7.2% increase in GDP, but I'm not so worried about the overall GDP. But I do see a lot of change taking place. Let's focus a little bit on the Mumbai side of the coin. In the last 35 years that I have seen, I've never seen as much infrastructure being instigated by the government. Instigated, I say, because we expect that some of these will roll out, and whatever interaction we've had with government looks very positive. The coastal road is likely to take off. The Cross Harbor Bridge is already being funded by the Japanese agencies. The metro 2 metros at least will start. So a combination of all this and the Pinjal River project, which will bring more water to Mumbai region, and the airport, which is being bid in the Panvel, Navi Mumbai area, I think a combination of that is going to see a paradigm in Mumbai, which is second to none, probably in the entire country. I think after the Bangalore and NCR movement, I think Mumbai will see in the next 2 or 3 years a paradigm of growth which is not there. But a big but because it's not going to happen the same way as we did before. So if we focus on our luxury segment of housing, I think we're going to fail. I don't think that's the segment which really has a potential of growth exponentially as we are doing it. I expect that there will be at least 100% increase in demand year on year, every year for the next 5 years. But it will not be in the luxury segment. So all the luxury segment will grow, but it'll go at 3%, 4%, 5%. But this segment is going to grow at 100, 200, 300, 400, and even 500%. So you're going to see an exponential growth, which is second to none, probably in the country for the next few years. So I'm very bullish on the extent of this. On the commercial side, there is a little question mark, but looking at the fact that the last couple of years, there's been no build out of commercial, and the IT space is also looking bustling, but I think Mr. Mike Holland gives us more competition to Mumbai. So he's taking away a lot of business to his city. So we'll have to compete in terms of the price element very strongly in order to be able to achieve the kind of targets that we are looking for. So we hope to share some of the demand which is being generated, very large demands is being generated in the IT space and the commercial space, but it's there. But I think 2 other elements are likely to take off. One is the industrial element, and a lot of people are not focusing on the industrial element and the benefits that go in for infrastructure, barring companies called Mahindra, again instigated by them. I think the World City concept in terms of industrial development is also going to take off this year. As a Make in India initiative takes off, a lot of ancillary industries and the demand is also going to come up in the current year, which is not really clear as to what the locations will be. So the first mover advantage in certain locations will certainly lead in terms of what is happening in the country. And that difference we are going to see here. So I don't agree that there will be a 7% increase in the business. I think there will be something like a 12 to 15% increase in the business, but certainly not in the segmentation that people are normally looking for, and this is going to be changed. South Mumbai looks going to be difficult because I think the projection of the Cross Harbour Bridge and the availability of transport is going to shift the center of gravity even more north. So you're going to see that moving towards Virar Plus. You're going to see this moving to Panvel Plus. So you're going to see all these outward movements and things like the Alibag sector, the Panvel sector, the Khandala sector. Those sectors are certainly going to take a beat. The reason why I'm specifying that the differences is because what I don't expect is that you're not going to see real estate grow, whether at 5%, 7%, or whatever in any particular location. The average is meaningless. It's stupid. You cannot talk about averages for your business. You will grow at 100%, or you'll grow at 2%, or you'll grow at 1%, or you'll grow at minus 10%. So I think the difference is going to be, can you choose the right location? Are you going to get the product mixes? And this is what is going to happen. And we're already seeing the difference which has taken place. And what's the difference taking place? There's no difference between the big and the small. The big guys are also over-leveraged. The small guys are also over-leveraged. So the companies which are not over-leveraged, whether they are big or small, are doing extremely well. So the big companies which are not leveraged or over-leveraged are doing extremely well even today and will continue to do so. The small companies which are not over-leveraged today are also going to continue to do well. So one, the market segmentation is going to be different. Again, the type of people who are sensible in terms of the real estate business are also going to do very well. So you'll see different places and people and companies in the next couple of years where you'll see the big guys fall and you'll see the small guys fall. So It's become socialistic. You don't have to be rich to fall down. You don't have to be poor to fall down. You can fall down if you're rich. You can fall down if you're poor. Wonderful. This is the most socialist country that we have ever got in the history of India. Because otherwise, earlier, the big guys never fell. And the small guys, you know, had all the problems. Not going to be like that in the next couple of years. You can be small and nimble. You can be small and great. You can be small and beautiful. And you can be big and idiotic and really lose out. So don't worry about being big. Don't worry about being small. Just be good and smart, and then you'll be the best in the country. So I do anticipate the year 2016, 17, 18 to be very proactive years, unless we hit what we call the Lehman crisis years in 2008 and stuff like that, in which the world just collapsed. The difference, again, is that the collapse of the world this time has benefited India. We've had the largest benefit of energy costs, more than the entire world. So our exchequer has benefited by 150,000 crores. That's as much as Mr. Modi can spend on all his socialistic policies that he would like to bring to the country, whether it's Swachh Bharat or any other policy that he wants to do. So we are a lucky country. We have a lucky prime minister. We have a very hardworking and visionary prime minister who works very hard to bring about the interest in India. So what else is going to happen? The other thing which is really going to happen is that the funds are going to look at India, 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 and India. I know it sounds funny because they've burnt their fingers earlier and they're not likely to come, but you'll be surprised because there are hardly any other opportunities all over the world. So for good projects, for good ideas, good thoughts, I think the next 36 months is going to show an interest. Whether you should pick up these funds or not is a question mark, because not always that if you don't tie up with the right people and you don't tie up with people who understand the fluctuations of demand, don't take the monies, because that's a dangerous event that can happen to anybody and anything in the future, because it's not the good thing to take at the bottom of the thing and then really wait for the next cycle to come down, which could happen in 5 years' time again. So I think what we really need to do is to pick up money smart rather than pick up money large, which is not really a smart thing to do. And I think these changes have taken place. So what's the future? I am extremely bullish. I do see an opportunity to do, but if you copy what we did in the last 5 years and try to just go exponentially from continuing and expecting that what I did yesterday is what is good for me tomorrow, I promise you, you will fail. If we can take the challenges of India as we see in the future with whatever infrastructure our Prime Minister is wanting to roll out, I think the opportunities are going to be huge. Can we marry the projects as per the demand that we are seeing in the marketplace grow? Can we marry the demand with the ancillary benefits that are coming out with the large infrastructure that we are doing? Can we manage the expectations on paper as to what really the growth of the country is going to be? I think these are the questions we don't answer when we really do the projections that we do, believing that whatever was the past is great for the future. It's not going to be. You're going to see lots of other changes. You're going to see them on the tourism side of the country. A lot of growth potential exists there. Lots of other countries are in difficulties. That's a wonderful thing to happen to India. Not good in the long run, but in the short run, certainly the benefit to India is huge. You're going to see that benefit in the next 1 year. Can you take these opportunities smartly? The normal tendency has been to pick up more money in debt, to pick up more money in equity, but actually not able to deliver the product place for various reasons that have happened in the past. If we can do that correction and actually do it, the world is at your feet. At your feet, whether you're small, whether you're big, whether you're very large or very small. But remember one thing, you may be very large, but you could fall harder if you fly too high. I think that difference is definitely happened. You're going to see the beautiful country. So be smart, fly high, but do it smartly. And I promise you, you will all be fantastic companies which will do great in the future. And the person sitting here on the dais are the right people to advise and guide you as to what the future is going to bring and which product to take, where, when, and how. I look forward to hearing them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Our next keynote speaker joined the Mahindra Group in 1973 and held several important positions within the group over the 40 years he was with the company. He was inducted to the board of Mahindra & Mahindra Limited in 1992 and resigned as executive director to focus on the social sector and create a favorable ecosystem for senior citizens. He was a non-executive director from 2010 till 2014 and is currently the chairman of Mahindra Holidays and Resorts and Mahindra Lifespace Developers. He was bestowed with the Real Estate Person of the Year Award at the GIREM Leadership Awards in 2008. Recently, he has also been awarded with the Aditya Ratna Award by Business Hotels Network and Haworth HDL for exemplifying the true spirit of hospitality and contributing to the success of the hospitality industry. I give you Mr. Arun Nanda, Director, Mahindra & Mahindra Limited and Chairman, Mahindra Lifespace Developers Limited.
Niranjan, you can thank your stars that I'm extremely happy today, so I will not, you said I disagree with you, I'll not disagree with you, but I want to first you want to know why I'm very happy? First time in my life, I had a powerful lady sitting on my right. And you know why I'm unhappy with you? A protest, sincere protest. You said small is beautiful, you never said bald is beautiful. Friends, you heard Niranjan, and Niranjan knows more about real estate industry than I think anybody in this room, me included. I agree with most of the things he said, but although we both studied accountancy, I practiced accountancy for 20 years of my life. So I am a bit cautious and maybe sometimes skeptical. I agree with him that good times are here, but I want to add 3 or 4 notes of caution today. The first note of caution, and I'll translate it later, Michael, is we are andho mein kana raja. You pick up this current issue of Times, and I've never read a more negative article about China than I read, because China was, where is Europe going? With the commodity prices, Africa has just disappeared from the radar screen. 7 years ago, everybody was going to Africa. That was supposed to be the next horizon. We used to say the next growth horizon. You don't hear about Africa, commodity price, because the economy was based on commodity prices. So where do the world go? Where does the world go? And that is why I use the word andho mein kana raja. It is not by choice people want to come to India, because they have no other choice, they are looking at India. I was in New York earlier this month, and when foreigners come to India in June, July, August, or when Indians go to New York in January, then they are not going for holiday or fun or shopping. And I'm a wicked fellow, you must have realized. So when I want to know when somebody is desperate to meet me, then I find difficult times. Friday evening, 5 o'clock is the only time available. When the guy is planning to go skiing. And I had 3 of the toughest, biggest fund managers wanting to meet me Monday morning, Friday evening. But I'll tell you what are the messages I got. They are testing waters. They are willing to sign an agreement with you that we'll create a fund with you, we'll do that. I think they're still waiting to cut out checks. Its courtship period, whether it will end up in bed, nobody knows. The second message I got is they are all opportunity hunting. They are all looking for distressed assets. They are waiting to see, are the banks, is the RBI governor's threat about NPAs being brought to the fore and forced to twist arms of people to sell assets at distressed prices is really going to happen or not going to happen. They're not here as in 2007, 8, 9, when they were looking at this thing. They are all looking at distressed assets because they feel that is where the huge upside is. And the third is the most critical part of it. I don't think they're going to cut checks or go to bed with one or all. And I think Devina mentioned about tier A. No, I think it was Ramesh who mentioned about tier 1. I think credibility of developer is going to play a much, much important role than the IRR of the return, because a lot of people have burned their fingers. And this credibility actually needs to be taken through all aspects of us. I'm sorry to say that today the biggest problem the industry has is credibility. Whether it is credibility of a customer who's willing to buy an under construction asset, whether it is credibility of the banker, credibility the banker is looking at from you, or you look at the latest reports. I'm a lawyer by education, and I was the general counsel amongst the various portfolios in Mahindra Group. The general counsel's office reported to me for many, many years, so I understand a little bit of law. These sort of decisions that we saw in the last 15 days, that you pick up a guy, put him behind bars, irrespective, for not refunding money. These things have never happened in this. For check bouncing, chairman of a company, or you appoint an official liquidator and say you don't have to check with the court and you can go and do this. It just shows what is the credibility, because even judges are human beings, they come with certain mindsets. And I think if you have to succeed, we as an industry, and I personally don't think it's going to come through the real estate bill. There is no regulation better than self-regulation. Your values have to be part of your DNA and not prescribed by somebody else. And I think the difference between the successful and the unsuccessful one, in addition to all the important factors which Niranjan mentioned, what the customer wants, timely delivery, etc., etc., I think credibility of the developer is what's going to differentiate between the men and the boys. I'll just take 2 more minutes to talk about 2 other things. One of them is that don't, and I'm sorry Niranjan, I'm borrowing your phrase, not only what he said about what worked yesterday, I think you have to understand what the customer wants rather than what you want. This is something I learned in hospitality business a long time ago. Just because I like solid color shirts, and if I'm a shirt manufacturer, I have to make what the customer wants. If the women want tall suede shoes, whether I like them or not, that's what I have to make. I have to make tall suede boots. Similarly in the hospitality industry, and you can see, I don't want to name, some of the biggest names did not succeed in the mid-market hotel region because the owner could not look beyond Burma teak and granite or Italian marble. You have to give the customer what he wants and what he can afford. And I think the affordability is going to be a big problem, because till now, a lot of us have banked on investors to give us the working capital. We always thought land aa jayega, to working capital, we'll sell something to investors. Investors have burned their fingers, especially in NCR, they burned their fingers so badly that you're not going to get investor. You'll have to sell retail to actual users. So investor looked at what you told him, what the potential price will be. An actual user will look at what his pocket can afford and what he needs. And the second is, don't commit more than what you can deliver. Because forget anything else, forget your reputation, forget about anything. Because of the credibility, low credibility for which we are responsible for, whether it is consumer forums or whether it is courts, you walk into a court and they think real estate wala hai to chor hoega. That's the mindset he works with. So I end with the same note that I think the biggest task for us as industry leaders is to improve credibility of the industry. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Nanda. To deliver the vote of thanks, we have with us a gentleman who in his capacity as CEO of Embassy Office Parks is responsible for all commercial real estate activities of the Embassy Group. Embassy Office Parks is an entity jointly held between Embassy Group and Blackstone, a world leader in real estate investment. He has 25 years of international experience in commercial real estate in Asia, Europe, and the US. He has been in Asia since '95 and is an active member of the commercial real estate community in India since his relocation here from Singapore to found the Jones Lang LaSalle business, where he served as the country manager and managing director from '97 to 2002. He was part of the leadership team for the Assets Property Group, an asset manager and development company delivering and managing both commercial and residential real estate in Bangalore. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Michael Holland, FRICS member, RICS South Asia Board and CEO, Embassy Office Parks.
Thank you very much indeed. It's a real privilege for me to share the dais with Mr. Hiranandani, Mr. Nanda, Ramesh, and of course Davina. So thank you very much to each one of you. Really, I'd like to just spend a couple of minutes highlighting a few points that I've picked up from what each one of them said. And I think there are nuggets there that can keep us going for the whole day in some of the deep dive discussions. I would echo Mr. Hiranandani's sentiments that we're at a time when we can be very optimistic, notwithstanding when we look around at all these issues that were touched on in terms of volatility in global markets, big changes in China, big changes in commodity were mentioned, the huge benefits to India and the economy around oil. We heard Mr. Hiranandani talk about consolidation in the industry and some great phrases that I wrote down, that the average is meaningless. You know, we are in a market where people ask us about how's the Indian market doing, and actually we need to unpack that city by city, and then even within the cities down into districts, and even within that context in sectors and in different verticals. We'll talk about the detail of that during the day, I'm sure, and many of you here today will be able to contribute to that discussion and help us. I'm certainly looking forward to those discussions. I liked Mr. Hiranandani's comment about, he talked about the potential over 5 years, and I think that that's the way in which we need to think about where we're at and where we're going. That it's not about the market this week. You know, clearly that's in everyone's minds. It's not necessarily about the next 6 months, but that India and our industry in India is on a journey. Many of us have been part of that journey for years. That journey has got years to run. And so today is just a point in time on that spectrum. My view, and I've said this over the last 12 months in a number of public forums, is that in all of my time in India, and I first stepped into India in 1997, but in all of my time in India, I am most optimistic today about the future of our industry in India than I have been over the last 15, 20 years. I think we're in a great place. I think we're in a good place because a lot of us have learnt lessons from the past. And again, Mr. Hirandani's comment about the smart will do well. You don't have to be big. It's not the old industry, it's the new industry. Ramesh's point about the potential is massive. This comment about 5 billion versus a global investment in real estate of 750 billion is staggering when you think of the potential. And the fact that at the moment there are few places around the world that have the attractions that India has. So we're in a great place. Mr. Nanda's comment about not overcommitting and regulation, self-regulation is better than central, or the best regulation is self-regulation. I think that's where RICS has a part to play, along with other statutory organizations and regulatory bodies. We are surely, as an industry, benefiting from inputs from organizations like RICS. We have a lot to do at an industry and at a national level. It's great to hear about the infrastructure improvements that are coming forward in Bombay in particular. There are other cities, including the one that I'm from, where that's a major focus for us, that the growth has really taken many of us by surprise. So, and just to close in relation to, I think, possibly the most important comment of them all, not surprisingly, from Mr. Nanda, about focusing on our customer and partner, and different customers for different functions. If I'm a developer and I'm attracting institutional investment, in some senses, that institutional investor is a partner with me. It's somebody that I need to build on a relationship, understanding what that institution wants, and he or that institution needs to understand how I can deliver and have realistic expectations. We're in a place where I think we're on the cusp of the second big round of institutional investment in our industry. And the great thing is, so many of us have learnt so much over the last decade about that. So we're no longer in that position to pick up on Mr. Nanda's phrase. We're no longer in a position where in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, because we have the experience, we have the grey hairs, sometimes we've had the pain of the last decade, but we learn from that, and we're in a great position with a great landscape in a great country to do well over the next decade. So I'm super optimistic. I think we're going to have a great day learning more detail of that, and we've got some great people here. So it just remains for me to make sure that I formally thank the members on the dais. Mr. Niranjan Hiranandani, very nice to have you and to hear from you and your wise words. Mr. Arun Nanda, Ramesh Nair, who's somebody that he and I was one of the first people that I worked with in India back in the late 90s. It's always a privilege to hear. And that study, I think, is going to be required reading for everybody in this room. I'm really looking forward to that because it's quantitative. It's actually, so it's confidential, going out, getting quantitative analysis so that we can really dig into that about what the investor industry is thinking. Davina, of course, and Sachin of RICS, we're so grateful to you for convening this. And of course, all of our sponsors are a group that we couldn't do this without. Thank you, I think, for a continuing and ongoing sponsorship from Tata Housing in particular, from Alpha G Corp and Ashoka Group, Asotech, Assets, Nitish Desai Associates, Sare Homes, and Turner & Townsend, and of course a knowledge partner, JLL. So thank you to those sponsors, and thank you to all of those who've been involved in organizing this. Let's really dig in, have a great day, contribute and learn. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. I now request Mr. Sachin Sandhir, Global Managing Director, Emerging Business, RICS, to please come up on stage and join the others in releasing the RICS JLL research report. I now request Mr. Sachin Sandhir to please present mementos to all our dignitaries on the dais. Mr. Sandhir, if you would just come here, sir. If you present mementos to everyone, go this way, please. Beginning first with Devina Gildial. Mr. Arun Nanda, Mr. Niranjan Hiranandani, Mr. Michael Holland, and last but certainly not the least, Mr. Ramesh Nair. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you, Devina.